Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365. Johnny Mack will be back with us in just a second. His heater went out, Jeff Kerr, and now he's dealing with trying to get that sucker fixed. So he'll be back with us in just a second. But joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Welcome to the show, Jeff. Good to have you here on this Victory Monday. Jeff, it's playoff time, man. I'm excited, but now the stakes are high, and the NFL season, the NFL playoffs are getting ready to begin.
Yeah, it's a fun time for football fans. It's really a fun time for anybody. January is a great month, especially now with the expanded college football playoff going on. There's a lot of football to be played. To me, divisional round weekend is always more impactful to me than wildcard weekend. But this year's wildcard weekend is insane when you look at the matchups. Everybody's a 10-win team. I don't think there are any easy opponents. I don't even think the Broncos are an easy opponent for the Bills. I just think the Bills are that good. I mean, would the Bengals have been a tougher opponent? Absolutely. But, this was just a fun year. It felt a little anticlimactic with going into the playoffs, but usually that sets the stage for a really good postseason tournament.
No doubt about it, Jeff. And we'll get into all the playoffs. Obviously, Eagles are going to host the Packers next weekend. I do want to get your takeaways just real quick before I turn the page. I said to John, this is going to be the fastest turning of the page we've ever had on a Victory Monday, but we will be doing that. Just any thoughts on the Eagles game yesterday? Tanner McKee, I thought, looked pretty good and did a nice job for the Birds to go out and get their 14th win of the year.
Yeah, it's easy to find stories from a game like this because you're talking to a lot of players you normally don't talk to, but it's hard to find like anything that's really going to stick. So I wrote about Jahan Dotson. The guy doesn't get any opportunities as a number 3 receiver. No number 3 receivers do in the Eagles offense. There's one ball and there's a lot of good football players on this team. So to see Jahan Dotson get 11 targets, 7 catches, 94 yards, guy Tanner McKee trusted, this was, for me, this was like Dotson's moment saying, hey, look, I can play in this league. I was a first-round pick. He even said that yesterday when he was talking to us after the game. And I think that's cool to see that he's progressing in this system. And we're not saying here Jahan Dotson's going to be a superstar or anything, but you know what, Zander, you're right. There are a couple takeaways you could, like, if the Eagles would somehow move on from Kenny Pickett this offseason, I don't think they're going to, just because of the final year of his contract. Right. I think they realize they have a long-term backup quarterback regardless in Tanner McKee.
I agree with that. It's a good takeaway by you. And I like that you brought up Dotson because, I was hard on Dotson all year, and I think many people were, but he wasn't getting the ball. And I think he showed yesterday, if he does have an expanded role and you do get him the football, he can make a move. He can make plays. He had almost 100 yards yesterday. So good stuff from there. Jeff, let's dive into this playoff game. When we get John back up, we'll obviously break it down even more. But Eagles-Packers, man, what's your early look at this thing? John talked about Jordan Love versus Jalen Hurts, the quarterbacks, and the coaches, obviously. But how are you seeing this thing right now, a week out from the wild card matchup?
So we're assuming Jalen Hurts is playing.
Yes, Jalen Hurts will be playing.
Because I'll tell you what, they always try to make it seem like he's not. It's kind of ridiculous. But besides that point, but yeah, look, I think the bigger injury concern is Jordan Love. And how's that wrist feeling? How's that hand feeling? He said he didn't have feeling in it yesterday. Now, he seems confident he's going to play. I think he's fully going to play. But all of a sudden, the Packers got banged up yesterday in Week 18 with Love, with Christian Watson. He was taken off of the car. I don't know. Watson's going to play. That's an over-the-top threat for them. Now, Wicks is still a good player, but he's no Christian Watt. I don't know, John. What do you think? The Packers are 11-6. I didn't even realize they lost yesterday until we got back.
Yeah, I know.
Because I was like, oh, okay, they're 12-5, and they lost, right? I'm like, they did, because after Washington won, it didn't matter. It was Eagles Packers.
Yeah.
Neither of you know if Romeo Doubs will be back for them in the playoffs. He missed yesterday's game versus the Bears. He was a big target for them in the playoffs last year, and if Christian Watson's out, they're going to need a target. Any update on Romeo Doubs either?
I don't know where he is. We'll get obviously a better indication on Wednesday, but it was very strange the way the Packers played that game. It's like, did they want to win? Did they not want to win?
They kept their guys in like they wanted to win.
Well, they kept some guys in, but they didn't. Yeah. They kept other guys out. Could Love have come back in? Who knows? I don't know. It's Dr. Chow said it was a funny bone injury. I don't know. He's not perfect, obviously. He does things on the internet and didn't think it was that serious, but we'll see how it shakes out during the week. But yeah, we'll get same thing with, as everyone panics about Jalen Hurts, but Dobbs has not been a big part of their offense this year as a whole.
He was the dude that shredded the Cowboys in the playoffs last year, right?
Well, I think that was the Aaron Jones game. I was thinking
it was the Aaron Jones game.
Yeah,
he
had 3 touchdowns, but I think let me real quick look that up. I thought Dobbs had like 150 yards.
Yeah, I mean he's a good player. He's a playmaker.
Yeah, he had 6 catches for 151 in that game and a touchdown.
Bo Melton can make plays. I've said they have so many good young receivers. They don't have the true superstar receiver like the Eagles do.
They got a good tight end too in Tucker.
Yeah. They have 2 good tight ends. Musgrave's been injured, but he's back. They have a bunch of good players on offense.
John, they're such a weird team, right? Because nationally, I have to do playoff narratives, and they came out right after the field was finalized last night. And mine for the Packers was, as good as they are, they don't beat anybody any good. They're 0-5 against teams that have won 11-plus games, and their 2 wins against 10-plus win teams were the Rams without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and the Seahawks team that didn't make the playoffs, and really they only won 10 games because the Rams rested everybody. Right. So, they're a tough read.
Yeah, I would agree with that because the quarterback is inconsistent. I mean, right there it starts with the quarterback is inconsistent. So you're going to get that wild gesticulation of play from week to week.
You can't do that against the Eagles. Like he can't be.
The problem is if the A game shows up, then you're like, oh shit, that's the problem.
Yeah. Then you're saying he's a top 3 quarterback in football, which he is. when that happens,
and that's when you have that type of player, people don't want to hear it, but it's almost you got to wait and see who shows up. And if the A game shows up, you're in for a dogfight, and you better play well. But I think, and I feel like I've been saying this a lot this year. It's a big Jalen Carter game from the perspective of Zach Tom is one of the best tackles nobody knows about.
I think so. I ranked him in my top 10 for tackles last year.
Yeah, he's really good player. Inside, though, Josh Myers, their center's not very good.
When Elton Jenkins is healthy, they're better. But they move him
Jenkins
around,
is a good player. Sean Ryan, he's okay. But they could really
Walker's been a surprise for them. Yeah, Penn State guy. But he plays tackle. He doesn't play guard.
Yeah, they can make some hay on the interior, especially with Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis, I thought, played well yesterday. Even though he's probably pissed off he had to play at least a little bit, even though he probably won't admit it.
I thought
pretty late into that game too.
Yeah, I thought Jordan Davis had a really good point after the game yesterday when he was talking to reporters. A lot of the cameramen left, and I asked him, and I think he appreciated the question. You've been here all 3 years now. Your team's made the playoffs. What's different about this group compared to? And I wasn't even trying to go with last year, just 2022. And he said this is the most connected group he's ever been a part of. And I thought that was really important. He said, and he even mentioned like his situation, like I'm bought in, like this isn't okay. I had to play yesterday. So what, I thought that was kind of important that you got a guy like that. Like you said, John, probably deep down, he probably was pissed off. He had to play yesterday. It's kind of embarrassing. He has to play. Bryce Huff has to play. Even someone like Jahan Dotson, who plays a lot of snaps.
By the way, Jahan Dotson played great.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit when you were
right before you came on. That was my big takeaway from the game. Like, if you need to rely on Jahan Dotson, I think you can rely on him.
Yeah, well, the problem is they don't rely on him, Jeff.
No, they
don't. Why?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys got into that, but I want to hear your thought process on why the offense looks so different with Tanner McKee and they're moving the ball around to everybody.
Do we want to beat the? Do we want to talk about what everybody seems to talk about? Why the offense moves so well, picking Tanner McKee, and why it doesn't with the $50 million quarterback?
Well, that to me it's obvious, but why isn't it obvious to everybody else? I mean, they're taking advantage of the strengths of the quarterback. First of all, Tanner McKee's bootlegging from under center.
Yeah, it looks like Kellen Moore's offense.
Yeah, they don't want to be under center with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, you know what, John? You learn a lot of things, and again, I like Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, but you learn a lot of things about how things operate with Jalen Hurts over time, and it's different, and not a bad thing. It's just a different thing.
Yeah, people have to accept it's like different quarterbacks have different strengths, and you try to play up to the strengths of the quarterback.
Okay, now the bigger question about this for both of you would be: there is a line of thinking that exists out there that Jalen Hurts' style is not conducive to winning the biggest games. Do you dispute that? What would you say to that? Because I do think it looks different, and I think it's very easily explained, as you guys said.
I mean,
the quarterbacks are different; their skill sets are different.
I mean, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes at
doubt, Jalen Hurts' style.
Yeah, I mean, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes at Super Bowl.
Yeah,
they could
win. Think about how close they were to winning that Super Bowl.
They were close, man. They were. I mean, I thought we were going to win it at one point.
To the people who say you can't win a Super Bowl this way, you can't. Yes, you can.
Because they were.
Yeah.
I even said at halftime of that game during the Rihanna show, I looked over to a couple of my guys, my coworkers at CBS. I said, they're not up enough. And they go, what are you talking about? They're up 10. I said, they should be up more than 10.
And by the way, so much, people, the unforced error, the fumble in the Super Bowl, which was completely on Jalen. But, the second half, the blown coverages, the Bradbury penalty,
special teams
punt return. Yeah. Aaron Cepas kicking the ball the wrong way.
Yeah, if the Eagles were to fire Michael Clay after the Super Bowl, I wouldn't have blamed them.
Glad they didn't.
Well,
they're glad they did.
And maybe the best news that Eagles fans will receive today, the Giants have announced they will retain Abel and Joe Shane.
Boy, what a freaking disaster.
Bad franchises do bad things, guys.
Oh, man.
Like, I don't understand.
Jeff, what was Brian Daboll trying to do yesterday?
I have no idea. Like, when I was watching Giants, I'm like, is this guy, like, for real right now? Like, it just didn't feel like he was going to be back after that game. I thought it was going to be his last game. John, I tweeted out a stat this morning. The Giants have played 100 seasons of football. Now, granted, divisions didn't start till 1970, but this is the first year they never won a division game. That's bad.
Yeah, they're bad. They're
bad.
And they're running it back with a GM no one likes.
Yeah.
Forget they're running like him. I don't think he's done a very good job.
Well, yeah, he's not good at his job either. But he's unlikable.
I'm not even talking about the Saquon Barkley move because I understand organizationally why they did that without being built. But what has he done? I mean, seriously, what has Joe Shane done to improve that organization?
No, they got him worse.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all.
They're going to have the third pick in the draft. They're probably not going to get that quarterback. Where are they banking on? Oh, okay, we got Malik Neighbors. We can get this right again. He's a great pick, but it's a bad organization. It's a bad team. Like, when you have Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and Kayvon Thibodeau on your defensive line, you should not be as bad at getting to the quarterback as they are.
I know. It's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Tanner McKee ripped them apart yesterday.
Well, a lot of Eagles fans are not surprised by that, Jeff. They expected it.
Oh, they're pissed at you, John. They said they keep commenting to me. John told us we weren't gonna like what we saw, and I liked what I saw. I'm like, all right.
Well, I got one, and again, nobody on this chat, but there was an Eagles fan that told me all week Saquon Barkley's gonna play, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I let him on Sunday. I'm like, maybe you should actually, talk to Saquon Barkley.
The listeners of Birds knew what was coming with that regard. Some didn't agree, but they knew.
Oh, yeah, and you're fine not to agree. Like, again, like
Yeah, I have no
selfishly,
problem with nobody. I got a bunch of people on social media that said I would explain to them that he's not going to play, and they would say, "Well, he's out there practicing on Friday," and I'm like, "He's not going to play."
Yeah,
And they didn't want to believe it. We didn't say that because we were speculating it.
we were telling.
Yeah. So it is what it is. I'm glad he won the rushing title because I wouldn't have wanted to deal with that fallout if Derrick Henry somehow.
Oh, could you imagine the
Oh my
firestorm
God.
that
Oh
would've
my
been?
God. It would have been. Maybe
Well,
I
that
would have
would've-
liked to have seen it.
That would have been real, though. I'm sure Saquon would have been pissed at that too. Don't you agree?
Well, no, he would have been, but I
Yeah,
think
come on.
I think he was kind of rooting for Derrick Henry to pass him.
Yeah, I think he likes Derrick.
I thought he had like a $500,000 incentive on that, on leading the league in rushing. Yeah,
There's an incentive. I mean, I'm sure the Eagles would have paid it, but
yeah, that's true. That's the one thing Lurie does that I really
And that's the one thing where I do bring up, like the NFL's stupid from the standpoint of all you do, and the Eagles are at the forefront of this. Team first, team first, team first, which I agree with. But then on the back end, the business side is you do have these incentives. So, you're sending conflicting messages. Obviously, if somebody's going to get $500,000 because they get another sack or they get over 1,500 yards or this or that or make the Pro Bowl, well, then you can't say team first all the time.
no, like Geno Smith got $6 million in incentives yesterday. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's stupid, but it is what it is. So there's some hypocrisy to it. But from a team standpoint, I mean, you see it in Detroit, you see it here in Philadelphia, you see it in Kansas City. You can see the culture. They are fighting for something greater than themselves. Whereas, obviously, if you're on the Giants or Chicago, you're worried about your incentives more than anything.
John, I got to pat myself on the back. I picked the Lions last night.
Oh, so did I.
Yeah,
picked
we
the
all
Lions.
did here.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a couple games wrong yesterday with
The Lions are great, man.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah, that's the one thing I don't understand. What with some people that I talk, they can't admit that the Lions are a good team. I'm like, I love good football. The Lions are great, man. They get their 30 points no matter how it comes. At one point yesterday, it didn't look like they were going to get their 30, and they still got them.
Fun
They're a
stats,
good
Andrew.
football team, man.
They scored the second most points in a season of anybody in pro. Now, again, 17 games, but it's still a lot of points.
Yeah, they're a good team, man. It's going to be I think inevitably, I think it's a crash course. I think Eagles-Lions is going to be the NFC title game. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if that's how it will be, but it certainly looks like that's the correct.
Is it crazier that the Eagles' divisional round opponent could be easier than the wild card opponent?
Well, the wild card, the division. Well,
because if the Eagles win and Tampa wins, they play Tampa.
Right. If Tampa wins,
don't say Tampa and Philadelphia. That's not easy.
I know, but that has been, John, I gotta laugh at this. Every year the Bucks and Commanders.
Tampa stinks.
No, but
I don't know why anybody's scared of Tampa.
But every year the Bucks are in the playoffs. They seem to either play the Eagles or the Commanders.
The Eagles, they do.
Well, compared to the Eagles, yeah, maybe. But I think Baker Mayfield's having a good year.
I'm just saying if I'm the Eagles, I'm not scared of Tampa.
You're not.
A lot of Eagles fans.
Tampa could not beat the Saints yesterday. They could barely beat the Saints.
Now, the best case scenario, I think, would be if the Commanders win and the Rams win, which I think the Vikings are on upset watch. Then you're going to play the Rams.
I expect the Rams to win that game.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, if the Rams win, well, I guess it still comes down to the Bucks. But if the Rams win, that throws a big wrinkle in how the divisional will go.
Yeah, I expect the Rams to win too. My narrative on the Vikings hasn't changed. And I thought they were a good team this year, but there just seemed to be something, and I think we saw the something last night.
I'm not gonna. I think people are going to be unfair to Sam Darnold.
I don't even think it was Sam. I thought the whole team looked bad last night.
Well, I thought the defense looked great early, but then
Sam didn't look too good.
They kind of wilted. Sam had a bad game. Sam had his
Kevin
worst game.
O'Connell didn't have a good game.
You know
That
who else I
is
thought had a bad game? I thought Justin Jefferson had a bad game.
they were allowing physicality, which I like. I had this discussion. Remember when Slay had the great game against Jefferson?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Week 2, a couple of years ago. They let him beat the shit out of him. And that's what they did last night. They were beating the shit out of him and Hawkinson. But you got to fight through it. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with the Vikings. I've been saying this for years. Kevin O'Connell loves these long developing routes. And they're blitzing from the buses and they're killing the guy and he doesn't change. There's 15, 20-yard routes.
Yeah, Darnold was on an island there. Everybody's like, get rid of the ball. I'm like, no, that's not how the offense works.
Yeah. It's like, dude, cut it off, break it off, adjust.
It's funny, too, because a lot of players know how good Jefferson is, but they all kind of say the same thing. Like you said, if you get physical with him, he doesn't really fight back.
But see, that's the problem. And you got to fight through it. It's not about, but you have to see how the officials are calling it on a particular day, because you could end up getting 8 pass interferences if you got a really ticky-tack crew. Last night, they were letting them play.
That's why you got to know your officials.
Yeah. John Ferrari's job with the Eagles. So that's like a ball and strike home plate umpire. You got to wait and see. If they are allowing you to be physical, go be physical. And that's what the Lions did, to their credit. And the Eagles, you can't really do that with AJ. So,
John, is Kevin O'Connell coach of the year for you?
Yeah, I'm going to vote for him. Yeah, he's had a great year. He had a bad game.
I mean,
this is, people lose me when they're like, already had a bad game in a big spot, so it's going to be a big highlight. That doesn't mean he had a bad year.
Yeah,
they won 14 fucking games, and Vegas had them at 7 wins.
But sometimes the most watched game, when you don't perform in it, it sways everybody's opinion, recency bias, and all those things.
It was on Sunday Night Football.
Oh, I agree with that. But I mean, I'm saying personally, dude's had a great year. He had a bad game.
My 2 other candidates for that. It's so weird. No one's talked about Dan Quinn being coach of the year.
I agree.
That team won 12 games this year.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. He's top 5 for me.
I mean, even Sean Payton, I thought the Broncos were going to suck. And they're
he's had a good, he did a
I
good
get
job.
pissed at this. Andy Reid's 15-2. You don't even hear his name.
Nope.
Like, he's never won a coach of the year in Kansas City. I know, but John, credit to you. You always talk about that, how that when it's expected, they never get it. But are we really going to let Andy Reid go without ever winning coach of the year for what?
Yeah, last time he won it was 2002. The last time he won it, he lost McNabb and Coy Detmer in the season. And he won coach of the year because they went 4-1 with AJ Feely.
But that's why I don't get upset at these awards or these. I'm like, I know what they are. It's for guys who overachieve, not for guys who are expected to achieve.
There's a popular San Francisco 49ers account. It's one of those like super fan type thing, but he gets a lot of clicks, and he compared Barkley's year to McCaffrey's year last year. And I could read it. He wasn't shitting on Barkley. And I said, so what you're insinuating is Barkley is offensive player of the year based on what? Okay. And he said, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and
he is offensive
and Eagles
player of the year.
Slight. And I'm like, nah. I say he gets on the Eagles, but not like that. And he goes, and then he DM'd me and said, yeah, he said Barkley should be offensive player of the year. He says, I'll even go one further. My honest opinion, Barkley should be the MVP. Guy ran for 2,000 yards.
Yeah. I'm voting for Barkley for offensive player of the year, but I'll tell you what, Jamar Chase is awfully close.
Jamar Chase won the Triple Crown.
I wouldn't, you know what? I wouldn't be mad at you if you voted for Jamar. I really wouldn't. I think it's
awfully close. It was difficult for me, but I went Barkley. I don't like being a homer, but I did go Barkley.
Yeah, it's a big year for him.
I think it's okay to be a homer when the running back on the team you cover runs for 2,000 yards.
I'm not a homer, but I mean, he's had a great season.
Nah, you're
I
don't think you
wouldn't.
ever have to quantify that. You're not a homer at all.
I wouldn't debate. I wouldn't criticize people for picking Chase, but I picked Barkley.
I mean,
Yeah,
in a way, you could pick Lamar Jackson for offensive player.
Yeah.
First player to run for
But
4,000, 800 yards in a
He's
season.
in the
of 4,000.
MVP
Yeah.
conversation. MVP is going to be Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson.
I still like how MVP's most valuable quarterback. They should really change the name of that.
Yeah. It doesn't, occasionally there's the outlier, but
this year could have been the outlier.
it could have been, but you have to have two things. You have to have a great season like Barkley, but you also have to have bad quarterback seasons. You got to make sure there isn't a great quarterback season.
And Jalen Hurts finished 5th in passer rating.
And there were three great seasons for quarterbacks. And you could argue 4 until last night, but 3 with Allen, Jackson, and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Joe Burrow was insane, and it's been swept under the rug because his team stinks. But that's how it goes.
By the way, I showed no remorse for the Bengals missing the playoffs. That is their coach's fault.
No.
That is everybody goes, oh, they're the better team. Like, they're not the better team. If they were, they'd be in.
It's like Alabama missing Jeff this year. I'm like, I'm an Alabama fan. You think I'm going to apologize? We lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. I don't give a shit. We didn't make the playoffs.
Yes, you don't deserve to be in. Exactly. You get it.
I agree 100%. Guys, the line started at 3.5 Eagles-Packers. It's up to 5.5 already in less than a day.
Wow.
Yeah, that's.
I always get a kick with these betting guys. The 3.5 is telling me something. Telling me what it's telling you is they want to get money from Eagles fans.
Absolutely.
That's what it's telling you. And they did. There you go. And that's where it goes.
Now it'll go up. And I know some people in the know there, and you're right, John. That's one of the things they look at. Who's getting paid? I mean, there's some information, but they don't know, like, Jordan Love's playing. Well. I hate the whole saying good teams win, great teams cover. Shut up. Shut up. Like, no. Like, to me, there is no line.
I'm with. Well, when you're not betting, man, like neither of us are. I don't think any.
Yeah, I'm not a bettor.
It doesn't bother you, but certain people who do bet a lot.
Yeah, I was asked to put like point spreads in a story once, and I'm like, no, because I don't believe in that. I don't care if you win by 1 or 100.
Yeah.
Jeff, quarterbacks.
The line's telling me something, Jeff.
Yeah.
The line is telling me something.
You know what the line's telling me? I don't even know what the line is.
Yeah.
Jeff, I want to ask you, who do you think has the advantage in this game from a quarterback perspective? Jalen Hurts, obviously MVP caliber season in 22. I think he's regressed a little bit this year, not in a way that is alarming, just not his best year. This is not. Well,
he's improved from last year.
Yeah, I mean, this is not his best year, is what I'll say. I think Jordan Love shows you at times the flashes that he can have, but he's inconsistent and he's streaky as hell. Who do you think has the quarterback advantage in this game?
I think Jordan Love is more talent than Jalen, but Jalen's the one not turning the football over. Jalen's the one not costing his team football games. So, and I'm a big believer in. I know people don't like to hear it, but you don't turn the football over on a team like this, you're going to win. And Jalen's done a lot of that this year and throughout his career. Like, if you look at the turnover numbers, 23 was the outlier. 24 doesn't turn the football over much after the bye week. 22 barely turned the football over at all. 21 even, he barely turned the football over at all for a first-year quarterback, first-year starter. So, I mean, I would go with Jalen based on that. But if you're asking me talent-wise, Jordan Love's a better player.
Talent. I think that's fair. But
Who do you feel better about though going into the game, Jeff? Like, who'd you rather be?
Jalen, because I think I know what I'm getting now. Jalen, I have no idea what I'm getting now.
Jordan. Well, is he going to pass the protocol, Jeff?
Well, depends on who you talk to, John. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah. Jalen's going to play. I'm very comfortable saying that.
Yeah, I was very comfortable writing it yesterday, and I'm very comfortable saying it.
He's going to play, but Jeff, I'll ask you this then about him. Where is your head at when it comes to rust, things of that nature. I'm not saying he's going to be overly rusty, but
you know what? That's my playoff narrative, Zander. I'm glad you pointed that out. That was my playoff narrative because I couldn't find one. I'm like, well, the quarterback's been out. Like, is the offense going to start out slow and be rusty? But here's a funny thing. Remember we were talking about the Eagles' slow starts for like ever this season?
Yeah.
You know, the last 6 weeks of the year, they had the most points per game in the first quarter.
Yeah, they've been better. A lot of that is Tanner McKee.
Well, the last two are Tanner, but they did score 14.
No, not Tanner.
They had
Kenny
14 in
Pickett.
the first in the Washington game.
That's true. They started showing, and that's why it was so disappointing that they weren't, because they started showing some life early, and then, you know, obviously the next week they weren't able to continue with Jalen Hurts and see if that was real.
Didn't it feel like from the Pittsburgh game they were really starting to just kind of click everywhere? Even though that was the day Saquon wasn't Saquon.
Yeah, it was maybe their best game of the season, their most well-rounded game of the season. That's why, you know, and I'm talking to a big Saquon guy, but, you know, I think they'd be better off if he had 1,600 yards than 2,000 yards.
It's your number, John.
Well, no, not for that reason. My number was 16, 17 total. I'm saying 1,600 rushing yards, which would be phenomenal, still phenomenal season. But that would mean there'd be more impact and volume in the passing game as well.
But maybe we see that in these playoffs. But also, when you look at the weather outside, you kind of want to give the ball to 26 too.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know, because what number's Josh Jacobs? You're a numbers guy. I don't know.
He's 8 now.
8. They're going to want to give the ball to 8. Eagles are going to want to give the ball to 26. And I think both quarterbacks don't get in the goddamn rhythm until they have to. That's the problem.
Yeah, you know what, John? I'm glad you pointed that out. I think the winner of this game is the one who gets their quarterback going early.
Yes.
So you're going to want to pass it.
Yeah, we mentioned that before you came on. Is it as simple as whatever team gets going in the passing game or is more efficient in the passing game could win the game? Well, real quick, though, before we get there, if both teams are going to try and run, which is what I think you guys are both right when you say that, who do you give the advantage to? The Eagles obviously have the number one rushing defense in the NFL, or is it number one passing defense in the NFL? Number 10 rushing defense?
They have the number one passing. They actually finished number one in total. Yeah.
Number crazy. 1 in total, but weren't we a little bit down?
First time, by the way, in Big Fangio's storied history.
Isn't that crazy? By the way, the fans pointed this out to me last night, and I happened to look it up because I thought it was cool. They said all the Raiders had to do was score 3 stinking points, and we had the number one defensive points per game. I said, good catch.
Well, the Packers are the number 6 overall running defense, and the Eagles are the number 10 running defense. Now, overall defense, Eagles are 1 and Packers are 8.
The Packers have
top
a good
10.
defense. It's very underrated.
Yeah.
Packers do have an underrated defense. They're pretty solid. Who do you give the advantage to there? I mean, Packers have some good guys up front in that defensive front. Rashawn Gary, they got some good players. Who do you give the advantage to there?
I know this was all the way back in week 1, which feels like an eternity ago. But Eagles were able to get some. They had a lot of mistakes that game, but they were able to get some big plays off that Packers defense. And the Packers defense has been giving up a lot of big plays this year. They gave it up to Detroit. They even Minnesota's had some big plays against them. So I think the Eagles can get that long touchdown from A.J. Brown or that long touchdown from Saquon. And that could be the difference.
All right, guys, here's what I'm going to ask you guys both to do, all right? On the fly here. Jeff, do we still got you?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, oh, you're here. All right, you're good.
Yeah,
I want you guys I want to get a power ranking of the NFC playoff teams, and I'll give you mine, all right? So the 7 playoff teams, NFC. I went Lions, Eagles, Vikings, Commanders, Packers, Bucks, Rams. Jeff, I'll come to you first, and then John, I'll give you a chance to give your 7. Jeff, it might be a little hard on the fly, so you can take as much time as you need. But
I don't think you're far off, though. I mean, honestly, I would probably go Lions, Eagles, Probably go Vikings 3.
Yeah, I kept the Vikings 3. I didn't want to go away from them with 14
I
wins.
like Commanders at 4, but I'll go Rams.
Okay, wow.
Then I'll go Commanders. Then I'll go Packers. Then I'll go Bucks.
All right, that's pretty good. So you have the Rams much higher than I do.
Yeah, because I think the Rams can win on Sunday.
Yeah, and I like Stafford. They were.
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I. I have Lions, Eagles, Vikings. They have had a good season. You can't overreact.
14 wins is 14 wins.
A very
that's why
a very good team and a very tough place to play. I mean, Detroit is ridiculous. And then I'm going to go Rams. I'm going to go Packers 4, Rams 5, Commanders, Bucks.
All right, I like that. All right, so
and there's no argument with like any of this. It's
all interchangeable. But I just wanted to see it from your guys' eyes how you guys view these teams. And I think it's going to be a great NFC playoffs. Good top to bottom.
The
better than the AFC.
Yeah, the AFC playoffs are going to be good, but the NFC's better this year.
Although, the Steelers might be the worst team in the playoffs in my estimation because they're so limited. I've been talking about it for weeks since they played here. They're so limited.
They haven't won a game since they played here.
Yeah, they're so limited. People finally figured out they can't throw the ball consistently. Their so limited.
Offense is so destroyed.
Yeah, it's so limited. Fryermuth is their best player, to be honest.
I've been waiting years to say it, and I've kind of hinted at for years, and I never say it outright. But George Pickens is the most overrated player in football, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Well, he's the best they have, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
but
he's a 2.
But while I say that, Steelers Ravens games are always great. Always.
It's gonna be a fun Saturday night game.
Always great. No interest in Broncos versus Bills.
What about Texans Chargers?
No interest in the Texans.
I think the Chargers win that game.
So do I.
I do too. I think the Texans are fool's gold, man.
They've been fool's gold all year. So is CJ Stroud.
I'm surprised they even made the damn playoffs, for crying out loud.
They're in the NFC South. They made the play. That's how they.
Yeah,
made
right.
It.
That's
I mean, look, Brian Callahan made the Titans worse.
The Broncos are entertaining, but boy, I can't stand their head coach. So.
Oh yeah, you're a big Sean Payton fan there, John.
He's like the Brian Kelly of the NFL.
You don't like Peyton. I'm not a big Peyton fan either, but I'd like to hear why, John.
He's got a punchable face.
Smug. He's smug. Just say it, John. He's a bad guy.
I'm joking. He once called me up to complain. So I've always said, "Come on, Sean, stop it."
He does have a punchable face.
I'm eating it from Broncos Twitter today because I always have to pick the 5 worst teams in the NFL. They were one of the 5.
When Stephon Diggs had the Minnesota Miracle, that was amusing to me because they have the skull chant there, which Eagles fans know. They trolled the Vikings when they beat them in the NFC Championship game. So the Saints were getting beat that entire game in the divisional round before the championship game, and they came back and scored late, and it looked like it was over. Obviously, hence miracle. And McVay and not McVay, Sean Payton was doing the skull thing in Minneapolis
when the Diggs play happened.
Yeah, well, before it, and then the Diggs play happened. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah, couldn't happen to a nicer guy, and I think it was funny when the Vikings won that game. I'm like, Eagles are going to the Super Bowl, and everybody's like, "Why are you so confident about it?" Like, look who their quarterback is.
Case Keenum. What a year that was. Case Keenum, I believe, was 4th in the MVP voting that year. I have to look it up. He had a great year.
Carson ended up 3rd, right? That year.
That was yes, he ended up 3rd. Yes.
Yeah, because he would have won it if he didn't get it.
Yeah, he would have won. He
was a runaway until the injury.
Now the Vikings were actually favored in the NFC Championship game.
Well, the Eagles were underdogs all playoffs.
Yeah, they had the #1 defense in the NFL, so they had a really good defense.
Remember, they were up 7-0, and then were driving again until Robinson had.
That biggest play, Chris Long talk about it all the time. Chris Long changed that whole game with a pressure, Jody McDonald, if you're listening. A pressure, not a sack, a pressure.
That is still one of the more underrated plays in Eagles history. They don't talk about it enough. They talk about the Philly special. We talk about the Zach Ertz 4th-and-1 catch. We talk about Foles' pass to Clement. We talk about the flea flicker from the NFC Championship game. We do not talk about that enough.
No, I agree. That's as meaningful as the Giants keeping Joe Shane and Brian Daboll for Eagles success.
What a gift for the Eagles. What a
why are the Giants? Oh, by the way, the Jaguars fired Doug and kept Trent Baalke.
I know. Oh my God, I yelled at Tony.
If he's
watching.
Why would they do? I don't know. Don't
what does Trent Baalke have on the cons?
You guys have been around NFL longer than I have. Covered this league a lot longer than I have. Does that not limit their ability to hire the best coach?
Yes, it does.
I don't understand.
You're limiting the pool by keeping this guy.
They are a terrible, and I love Tony Khan. I'm very upfront about it. You know, I love the dude. They are a terrible organization, which if that doesn't prove I'm objective, nothing will. Because I root for him. I hope he does well. Nicest person you're ever going to meet. They're a terrible organization.
My colleague Pete Prisco, who has been covering the Jaguars probably since when I was born. Well, obviously Jaguars started in 95. He's covered them every year. But he said this morning the Jaguars fans probably wanted Baalke gone more than Pearson. They wanted Pearson gone.
Yeah.
But they wanted to clean the house. And this isn't going to get this fan base bought in. It's not.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the fan base buying in. That comes with it. If you win, they buy in. Like the year they were good with Doug Marrone and all that, they bought in. You know,
they bought in 2 years ago.
Yeah, if you're good, people will buy in. How do you get good consistently?
But that's hard. That's the hardest thing in the NFL. Ask the Giants. They haven't been good since they won a Super Bowl, which was a fluke. That was the biggest mistake for being the Patriots the second time in that Super Bowl. That team is the worst Super Bowl champion of all time. Not even close.
Which team?
The 11 team. They were bad. They were not a good football team. They did not have a good defense. They benefited from a very easy end-of-season schedule, and they had a nice little bracket run in the postseason.
Yeah.
You
got
to play
That's
bad
what everybody's
teams.
talking to themselves. That's what, like, if you're, okay, here's a question for you. So forget about the top teams. So I'm talking Kansas City.
What team's got a good draw?
Detroit, Philadelphia. No, not draw. Who's got the chance to be the special catch the lightning lower seed that's going to make a Giants-like run?
If you go based on the end of the season, the Rams.
See, I say the Packers.
Well, I could see the Packers too. But
the Packers, if they get past the hurdle of the Eagles, I'll agree. But I'm not going to say that because I think the Eagles are going to beat the Packers.
But it starts. I mean,
that's
you have
how
a
things
special
go.
run. You have a special run.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
Beat everybody.
But the Rams could beat the Vikings, who again 14 wins.
Yeah, but then they're done. I agree with you. They could beat the Vikings, but then they're done.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to beat the Lions in Detroit. That's the issue.
Who can beat 3 teams on the road? Is essentially what I'm saying.
It's not the Commanders.
It's the Packers.
Yeah, you're right. If you're going by that, because it's not going to be the Steelers, it's not going to be the Broncos, it's not going to be the Commanders.
Boy,
So
if the Rams win and the Bucks win, it's going to be Eagles versus Bucks and Lions versus Rams. That's going to be. I mean, the Lions are going to be.
I don't think
anybody's
anybody's beating the Lions in Detroit.
What's that?
I don't think anybody's beating the Lions in Detroit.
So you got all right, Jeff. Before we let you go, because we have Chris Franklin coming up, so we got to run. I want you at the start of the playoffs here, because next time we talk to you will be after the wild card. Give me your picks. Who's coming out of the NFC? Who's coming out of the AFC? And we'll talk about it every week, obviously. But as it stands today, how do you see it?
Same picks as when I made them in August. Lions, Ravens.
Wow. That's impressive by you.
I haven't been able to change it. They've given me no reason.
Why the hell the Ravens?
I was a big believer in them signing Derrick Henry. I thought Zach.
Oh, the Ravens are super talented, by the way.
I know.
I think Zach Orr was going to fix that defense, and he did. It took him a long time. And look, that's how, to me, the most impressive Eagles win of the season is in Baltimore, beating the Ravens in Baltimore.
Yeah, and they made Lamar Jackson.
And I don't even know if the Ravens are as good as the Chiefs or the Bills.
They made Lamar look like a shell of himself in that game. They made him look pedestrian in that game.
And you can make Lamar look pedestrian. That's what I worry about the Ravens. I worry about him because he's a really good player. But
I was doing my all-pro teams, and I'm like Baltimore. I'm like, Jesus, I'm picking another Baltimore guy. They're just loaded.
They are, but being able to put it all together
is another. Ravens team they've had.
Like, yeah, I mean, if anything, they've underachieved.
They have.
Yeah.
12-5.
Yeah.
I thought they'd be better than that. They lost the Chiefs opening night. They did beat the Bills, but that was in week 4. So, but they lost to the Eagles.
Hey, until they do it in the playoffs, nobody's going to believe it. But they're incredibly talented.
You know, sooner or later, I always say if you're good enough, you're going to break through. I know Bills fans don't want to hear that because they've been bitten with just bad luck their entire franchise's history. But you're good enough, you're going to eventually go to the Super Bowl.
It's hard for me to look past these Chiefs, man. 15-2.
Oh, I know. That's what I said. Never bet against Patrick Mahomes in any region. I still won't do it, but I got to pick who I went with in August.
Yeah, they have the cheat code. Nobody else says the cheat code.
Although, all right, Jeff, we got to run, brother.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'll see you.
Thanks, man. Good stuff from Jeff Kerr here on Birds 365. Playoff picture is set, everybody. Eagles are going to host the Green Bay Packers next week. Sunday at 4:25. So I like the time slot, Johnny Mac, by the way. I think it's a good time slot for the Birds. So looking forward to that game. We'll talk to Chris Franklin in just a second here on Birds 365. I want to thank everybody for being here, by the way. We have 129 likes, which is a putrid number for a playoff week. We got 750 watching and another 300 on X. Come on, everybody. Hit that like button for us. Let's get up over 200 likes on the day today. We'll be back in 3 minutes with Chris Franklin on the other side.